Hi guys, here we have the 2017 Nissan GTR. Nissan first introduced the R35 GTR, this shape GTR, back in 2008, and since then it has been releasing various updates, a bit like a computer with its software updates. It might look pretty similar to the R35 from 2008, but it's got a completely new front end, new headlights, bigger intakes for the brakes, and then Nissan's V-Motion grille. There's also some new wheels, more defined side skirts, and these cool little vents in the back which kind of remind me of a racing car. There's also more power for the engine. The 3.8 litre twin turbo V6 now produces 419 kilowatts, up 15 from the previous model. Torque is also increased by only 4 Newton meters, but it's available at a wider rev span. We'll go for a drive in a minute. We're on the Great Ocean Road, perhaps one of the most celebrated roads or driving roads in Australia. But I'll start up on the mountain because it's pretty busy at the moment. There's a lot of tourists around. For now, let's check out the interior and get out of this wind. So inside, it's pretty basic. I mean, it's a Japanese car. It's not a supercar, even though it does have supercar credentials in terms of performance. I'll just start it up and we can get this touchscreen going. So this is an all-new touchscreen. Nissan says it's reduced the amount of buttons and functions and things from 27 to 11 with this new system. And it is pretty clean. I mean, you've got the basic functions around the outside, then a nice big touchscreen for the main menus. And then all of your climate is down below here. And then this trio of R driving modes available. So this is only available on the GTR, obviously. But you've got R mode for the stability control, suspension, and powertrain. You've also got a comfort mode for the suspension, and you can obviously turn the stability control completely off. This is new for the MY17 as well, this little hand controller, so you don't have to reach up to the screen. But I do like the placement of the screen, it's right in arm's reach. Cabin space is pretty good. It's a sports car, two-door sports car, so it is a little bit confined, but headroom is not too bad, and legroom is definitely okay for this category of vehicle. In the back is where things start to go a bit pear-shaped, because those back seats aren't really going to hold any human being unless they're under the age of 10. And you've got big Bose subwoofers in the middle there. It doesn't feel like a supercar when you're sitting inside. It feels like a pretty conventional Japanese car. But once the engine's going, there is a certain theatre to it, because it's whirring and whining away, and then as you select the gears you can hear it clunking and selecting gears and so on. Nissan says it has improved the transmission feel and refinement. I remember driving the original R35 back in 2008, and there were a few clunks and rattles going on with the transmission. This is because Nissan has employed a very unique setup. So it's got a transaxle at the back, so that's the gearbox at the rear axle, like inside the differential or part of the differential, and then it has two drive shafts. So one drive shaft coming from the engine feeding it to the transmission at the back, and another drive shaft feeding the power back to the front wheels, because this is four-wheel drive obviously. There are a lot of moving parts with the drive line, but it definitely is more refined. I've heard a few clunks at very low speeds, and when you go from reverse to drive, it does seem to shunt just a little bit, not too badly though. It actually makes it feel like a race car. It also has a very direct drive line, so when you're doing U-turns, it actually feels like it's got a locked diff. It's pushing the wheels and chirping the wheels as it's turning. But anyway, let's take it for a drive. As I said, I'll start at the top of the mountain, then we'll come back down through here and end here. Okay, so we're just at the top of the mountain. This will lead back down to Great Ocean Road. To start with, I'll just leave it in automatic mode. I've got all the driver settings in normal mode as well, because I just want to show you something. So it's got turbo lag, but there's also another element as well. This has got a dual clutch transmission, automatic transmission, like many other sports cars. But in this car, it seems a bit delayed. So okay, I'm cruising along. It wants to be in 6th gear at the moment. But if I need to suddenly overtake someone, or suddenly get out of the way, or if I just want acceleration, being a high-end sports car, I might want that. And I floor it. Look how long it takes to actually change down. So I'll floor it now. to find the appropriate gear, whereas it should just jump straight to third if it can. But of course, if you want to, if you don't like that, you can just put it into manual mode and change gear yourself. Which, if you're driving a car like this, you're a driving enthusiast, so you're probably going to be using the paddles anyway. In terms of the driving modes though, I like the powertrain in the race mode. I like the suspension so far, just in the normal setting on mountain roads like this, because the race setting seems a bit too firm. It's probably only good for race tracks. And then the stability control in race mode as well. With the stability control in race mode, you do get a bit of slip. There's actually quite a lot of slip that will allow to happen. The GTR's Atezza all-wheel drive system is renowned for being rear biased in terms of torque distribution, front to rear axle. So you can actually drift the car under power only. Like it'll power slide pretty much four-wheel drifting. And I don't know many cars, four-wheel drive cars, that can do that, so it's pretty cool. So I've got it in manual mode with the 2 race settings. Let's see how it goes. So awesome gearbox, changes down exactly when you tell it to. And lots of acceleration in between the corners. It really gets up and goes. There's not many cars on the market at the moment that can go like this does. As I said, as long as you've got it in the right gear, turbo lag isn't an issue. Hard on the brakes, awesome brakes. Straight out of the corner. It's amazing. There's been a lot of criticisms about the engine noise in this car. So for me, anything below 5,000 RPM, the engine sounds like a GTR. It's got that sort of heritage soundtrack to it. Harks back to the old RB series engine. It's got that howl. But above 5,000 RPM under full power, it doesn't really sound that appealing. It sounds like, I know it's a cliche, but it sounds like a vacuum cleaner. It sounds like a massive Dyson. So Nissan has fitted an sound enhancer in the cabin, so you've got a bit of electronic noise coming through the speakers. I mean, it sounds okay, but for a GTR, you probably want it to sound a bit better, so you'd fit an aftermarket exhaust. There's no denying the engine's performance though, it really gets up and shifts. So here we are coming over the Great Ocean Road now, and you can start to see the ocean over there. That turbo lag, it's not bad, but I'll just show you. So if you go back to third gear, we're just cruising along, floor it. It does take a little bit, but if you're a driving enthusiast, you shouldn't really be in third gear when you should be in second anyway. Gearbox for this style of car, so you want something that's really direct, just fires straight into the gear every time. And here we are just coming into the Great Ocean Road now, so we'll swing a left and then head back up to where we were before. spin just getting up to speed. Awesome performance. When you're just cruising along like this, it's a pretty practical car. It's quite comfortable. You could use it as a Grand Tourer. And then you have the optional comfort suspension that you can put it in as well, which softens it up a little bit. We're fortunate enough to have quite good weather conditions down here today. Melbourne's renowned for its rain and cold, windy conditions, but today it's a nice sunny day. Beautiful water down here today too. It's nice and green and clear. Kind of reminds me of Queensland beach water. The steering in this car, it's very mechanical feeling and very direct. You can feel everything that those front tyres are doing. There is a little bit of understeer when you're really pushing it, particularly when you're not on the throttle. So the Ateza system is able to calculate the best torque distribution, but if you just roll into the corners with a bit of heat, it can understeer a little bit. I think this has got a lot to do with the tension of the drivetrain. There feels like there's a lot of tension there. Obviously this helps when you're just flat out and you're going around the track, but when you're just cruising, or 8/10 up a mountain road, that's when you'll get a bit of understeer. Push it even further than that, and yeah, as I said, you can actually kick the tail out and get oversteer happening. The best thing I find is to tuck into the corner, so hard on the brakes, get all the weight on the front end, get those tyres biting, and then use the four-wheel drive grip to rip you around the corner. Unfortunately we can't go any faster at the moment because we've got some tourists in front, but it's a good chance to take in the view anyway. There are a few good sections of the Great Ocean Road and a few slightly more boring sections, so we're just coming into a bit of a winding section now. Just back there, and it's able to soak them up quite well for a high-end super sports car. Never get tired of that acceleration. It's really, really strong acceleration. We will be timing the 0 to 100 later on in a different video, in our usual video, but it'll be interesting to see what sort of time it does. I don't think it would quite make the 2.7 second claim. Maybe on a racetrack at ocean level with very high grade premium fuel and perfect tyres and things like that, I don't see it hitting 2.7 just in real world conditions though. But it definitely feels fast. It's one of the fastest production cars you can get in Australia. Well, officially 2.7 seconds is the fastest production car you can buy in Australia at the moment. But I think some of the Lamborghinis and things like that, they feel faster. They've got the theatre to them, they've got the engine sound right behind your ear, very loud, whereas this, it's a bit unassuming. In that respect, it's similar to the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 10 in that it just gets from point to point as quick as it can, and it doesn't make any fuss about it. Where this differs from the Evo X though is with pure power and speed. So this will be perfect to take around the Nürburgring. It will be awesome down the long straights in between the corners. It's also good for grand touring, so if you're along even a winding road like this is pretty good, where you've got decent straights and corners that aren't too tight, whereas the Evo will be probably better in the tighter corners. Cruising along like this, it's pretty quiet and refined. There's no sort of rattles or creaks, or excessive rattles or creaks. There's a few coming from the door that I can hear sometimes, but it's pretty reasonable. And the gearbox is also fairly quiet. It doesn't make a noise if you're in the right gear at the right time. If you're in 6th gear and yeah, you suddenly slow down, you demand 3rd or even 2nd, it will clunk around a little bit. And even in automatic mode, I've noticed, when you're coming to a rolling stop, you can hear the rods and things of the gearbox selecting the right gear for a takeoff after that. But all of this is fine to me because this is a, as I said, it's a very high-end super sports car. It's very quick, so it gives it a bit of character, if anything. It reminds you that this is a seriously quick car. A little bit of understeer, then the tyres start to squeal. I'm not really pushing it that hard for this car anyway. But of course, as I said, you can prepare yourself. If you know the car and you're on the track or something like that, you can become more familiar with it. So you, as I said, get on the brakes, get the weight onto the front tyres, and then use the four-wheel drive system to dart you or propel you around the corner. Just keeps climbing for speed. There's no let up at all. It just keeps going. Every gear, more and more speed. It's amazing. So on first impressions, it's a machine. It's a beast of a car. It really hauls ass through the corners and in between the corners. Awesome grip, awesome performance. Yeah, you can't really go wrong. For this level of acceleration, you'd need to be stepping into something like a Lamborghini or a Porsche or something like that, which are more expensive. So in that respect, it is a bit of a bargain. Down points for me are the engine sound. It deserves something a bit better, I think. The sound enhancement through the speakers doesn't really help either. But apart from that, this is, yeah, it's a machine of a car. I can see why there's such a huge following for this. We'll be putting together a more in-depth review on the website soon, including our 0 to 100 video. So stay tuned for that one. Thanks for watching.